Hello and welcome to Marketing Tip Tea Time at 222. I'm your host, Aaron Zimola, and today we have someone very special in not only the Greeley area, but actually nationally and internationally. We are going to talk to the woman, the myth, the legend, the HO model train extraordinaire, Michelle Kempema, who is the executive director of the Colorado Model Railroad Museum here in Greeley, Colorado, downtown actually. So, yes, we are excited to have you on the show, Michelle. There you are.
Hi, Aaron. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being on the show. We really appreciate it. It's great to have somebody who has really built a brand that is astounding, really. I think there's no other way to put it other than it's like you've hustled to really build this brand. But before we jump in to what you've done for the Colorado Model Railroad Museum and how you went into being a model train icon, we're going to try our tea.
Yeah.
So,
I got one.
all right. So, okay, everyone, just to let you know, I may have spaced the tea briefly, and I needed to get some tea to Michelle. So, shout out to my mom who's probably watching. Thanks, Mom, for getting us this tea. It's yogi, green tea, and kombucha. Now, I'm usually not a fan of kombucha. Have you ever tried kombucha, Michelle?
No, I had to look it up. I'm like, what is kombucha?
Yeah, so I'm usually not a
And I
fan of
already,
it, so we'll see how it tastes. Let's see
I
here.
actually like it. I made mine already because our kitchen's way over on the other side of the museum.
Right, yeah, I was able to have hot water right next to me, so.
I think this is actually really
Oh,
good.
this is really nice tea.
It's
Wow.
good. Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised.
I know I ran it to Michelle this morning and I was like, oh, it could taste terrible, but here you go. So, wow, that is actually a really good tea. I like this. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron's mom. I like it too.
All right. So Michelle, you graduated from UNC, Montfort College of Business. Was it Montfort College of Business?
For
And
College of Business.
you're born and raised in Greeley, aren't you? Or at least raised in Greeley?
I moved here in high school. I was born in Nebraska
Right. Okay. Oh,
and then moved here.
Nebraska. So trains are big in Nebraska,
Yeah, I grew up
actually.
on a railroad. It was a different railroad than the one here in Greeley, but I
That's
did grow up
awesome.
next to trains.
And so you moved here in high school, and then you went to Greeley West, correct?
I did. I went to West, and then I actually went to CSU.
Oh,
Sorry, UNC. I got a full ride
wow.
scholarship for engineering, but then I
Wow.
married one. I married an engineer.
Oh, okay.
Then I
Okay.
had to quit and went to graduate school. So
And
late in
so,
life, I came back to UNC and finished my degree. So
okay. Okay, nice. And so you graduated from the Montfort College of Business. And did you know you were going to go into the model railroading world after that?
not at all. Not at all. I just knew I needed a business degree. I was a single mom at the time with two daughters, and
Wow.
um, yeah, and in Greeley, it's like, where are you going to work? One of the big employers, you need a business degree. So I got a
Right.
business degree.
Exactly. Wow. So you got your, so
And then,
how did you end up then finding your way to the Colorado Model Railroad Museum?
so while I was in school, being a single mom, I worked at a homeless shelter here in town. I worked a part-time job there. And the man who built this museum, Dave Trussell, invited a different nonprofit each weekend of 2009 to do a fundraiser here at the museum. So I was chosen from our agency to come with my two daughters and sat at the front of the museum, and my daughters went out into what we call the train layout, which is the whole miniature world. And my youngest comes back and she says, Mom, this is the coolest place I've ever been. Could we volunteer here? And I said, yeah, I love this place too. Let's do this. So I volunteered here for about a year and a half before I actually became the director here.
Wow.
So
That is amazing. And that's great that you started out as a volunteer and then ended up as the executive director. I think that you had probably a lot of experience at that point by the time that you became executive director.
well, I had a lot of experience in human services
Okay.
prior to coming here, but this is a tourist attraction. It's a nonprofit. It's the same kind of structure, but it's a
Mm-hmm.
completely different kind of donor base and a completely different kind of market for marketing,
Right. Right.
really. So I had, I'm not feeding a child or saving a puppy. We have model trains.
Right.
And so how do you get
Right.
people interested in that or to donate
Yep.
to it? So I
Yep.
walked into a challenge for sure.
Oh, yeah. And so then, what is your role currently at the Model Railroad Museum, and how has that evolved, and how have you kind of molded that?
Well, I am the executive director.
Okay.
And I was the only employee for almost 2 years here. And then now we've just grown. Every year is growth, and we're just always trying to strive for growth, really. And so
Mm-hmm.
now I have a staff of 4 right now. I did have 6 at one point, but some have moved in, just
Okay.
COVID and stuff,
Yeah.
changing lives. But it's funny because we're a staff of ladies that run a train museum with about 100 male volunteers that run the railroad.
Wow. Yeah, so I mean, let's dive into that a little bit. You are considered legit in the model train world. Like, you know your stuff. And I mean, when I think model railroading, and I think most of our audience, they think old men
Mhm.
primarily. So,
Yeah.
how did you gain that authority and that authenticity so that, you've been on over 1,000 shows and publications as an authority figure. I looked it up. I mean, it's astronomical how many times you've been interviewed and on podcasts. How did you build that? How did you go from graduating and saying, okay, I'm volunteering, now I'm executive director, to probably one of the foremost voices on HO model railroading in the world at this point? I mean, people want you on their show all the time.
Well, I think that's okay. So let me start at the beginning of your question. Um, I think it's because I'm genuinely curious. I really want to know, and I'll invest the time to learn it. And I think a lot of times a museum director is someone who just does the actual management of the building and the enterprise and doesn't get involved in the small details of a
Hmm.
railroad or understanding that. But I really honestly, when I walked in this building, I didn't know a thing about modeling. So instead of coming in and telling them how to do their stuff, I went and spent time with the volunteers and said, teach me.
Right.
And everywhere I go, I'm a lifelong learner, and I think I'm passionate about that, and I think that's why I'm legit, because I learn my stuff.
Yep.
So, but we're kind of known for working with youth and kind of advancing the hobby in different ways than just old guys in their basement and trying to
Right.
give the a hobby a different look. And so that's why I'm often interviewed, is just because we're trying different things, doing different things, working with schools and kids and being innovative in what we do. And so we're sharing model railroading with the world in a whole different way.
That's that's fantastic. And so then tell me about that workload then, because it sounds like a lot of your workload is just learning.
It
And
is.
then do you actively seek out these kind of press opportunities, or are they just kind of coming into you now?
Well, I think I had to do it at first. Um, in fact, in the model railroading world, I spent the first 6 years that I was here at the museum building us as a tourist attraction. That was my so I'll look at it at an
Okay.
industry or a segment and say, how do I get involved in that? So I stepped up and I got involved in Tour Colorado. I'm the current president of the board for Tour Colorado, and I represent the state in tourism. And I got that built, and
Wow.
I was very comfortable as to where we are as a tourist attraction, where we fit in Colorado with the other trains, and partnering, Visit Greeley, all those things. So then I went, I wonder who makes the products on the layout. Maybe I should go meet the model railroad industry. So I went to the National
Mm,
Train Show and just started meeting people and asking questions. And I think just investing my time and learning about them.
wow.
And then they wanted to know who we are. So it's about
So
relationship building.
right. So I guess two key takeaways here is number one, be a lifelong learner for any students or anybody out there who might be wanting to get our bullet point takeaways. And the other one is actually invest your time into actually learning if that's what you want to do, and building those relationships with people who know more than you, right?
Right.
Is
Yeah, and
and
relationship building is so key, and just finding industry partners and being creative thinking. Like hey, let's try your product doing this in our building and let's see what happens. Just
Right.
thinking outside the box and I just throw ideas out there and some of them work. So,
Wow. So a lot of ideation happens then, it sounds like.
yes.
Just brainstorming. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
And so how does that tie into then, the grander marketing scheme of how this press has launched you and the museum with you? How has that kind of all synergized together?
Well, it really has in the fact that well, for one thing, I'm pretty recognizable in the model train world because blonde girl, lots of things that are different than modelers. So I have that going for me that I physically look different. So I'm easily recognizable, but I am synonymous with the museum now. And I think that building that image and that, what do you call that? Your brand, our brand.
Yeah.
And our brand is about joy and fun. And for those that
Right.
know me, I'm all about that. If you're not having fun, you change it.
Right. Exactly.
So working on your brand, I think, is the key there.
That's awesome. And so with your brand, I think, you're one of our clients for Google. And a lot of times when I'm telling people about you, they say, oh, that's a niche thing. Like, that's a very niched world. But from working with you and what I've heard from you is actually model railroading isn't really a niched world. It actually applies across many demographics.
It does, and trains are such a part of people's lives. But what we provide here is a visitor experience. So you don't
Right.
have to be a modeler to come here. I was so surprised. I honestly, when I first started this job, I'm like, I need to learn more about the senior market because I'm working with model trains.
Right.
That
Right.
wasn't who visited us. It was 3 generations that came together. It's grandma, grandpa, mom, and dad, and the kids, and they all come together, and everyone has fun. It's families that visit us. And so I learned a lot about just understanding what is fun for people. They need to come here and they need to be a part of a miniature world. How do you immerse yourself into a place of joy? And so that's my job, is just provide this awesome visitor experience. And it's for everybody, not just modelers.
I know when I went in for the first time, I was blown away because you're just kind of lost in this whole different world that you've built. And you shrink down almost in your mind, and you're in the layout as everything's working like the real world. There are okay, just to tell you how detailed this place is. There are chickens, tiny chickens that peck when you press a button. They're going boop 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 boop, and the number of times that the Model Railroad Museum has been shared, I think is pretty astounding as well, because there are a lot of photographic opportunities and Instagrammable opportunities throughout the layout, because it's just cool. It's just fun. You just have fun there. And I think that's, oh yeah, I just love the, as you can tell, I also love the Model Railroad Museum. Yes.
Yeah, we've been blessed by bloggers who come in that I don't even know they're here, and suddenly they put us out on social media somewhere and people find us.
Wow.
Well, our marketing budget is about this big.
Small, yeah.
It's word of mouth. It's people enjoying their time here and sharing that out on social media. That's how we've become known.
And so then with that kind of clout, are you actively ever asking people to share, or is that all organic, just basically from the customer experience that they have there?
It's almost 100% organic. We're so small staffed that it just doesn't happen. We don't have the time to go out and be like, hey, share our stuff. We're just like, thank you for sharing. We saw you did that.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
It's just organic. And we're very blessed by people who come in here and find some joy and share it.
Wow, that's fantastic. We have a few people watching that I want to just shout out to. Brandon Hernandez, if you're still there, hey, thanks for watching. Peter Romero, hey, he's actually upstairs helping us out. My mom, hi mom. Connor Shaw, thank you. Connor is always watching. Bob Adams, and Sherelle is actually watching right now, I think. So,
and she's our social media guru. It's Sherelle that handles all our Facebook.
That's awesome. And I know that
She's awesome.
you've seen pretty big growth as far as social media goes as well. recently.
Yeah, and Sherelle actually started our Instagram, and I think that's really taken off now too. And I don't have time to do that. Thank goodness I have staff to do this. We are a tiny staff, but we're pretty mighty because everybody has to do a
Right.
lot of things. So,
Wow.
and I'm smart. I find people like you who know how to do Google.
Right. Yep.
I can't do Google for nonprofits. So,
It gets complicated at times. Yeah. Google can be one of those things that you get lost in quickly. And
yeah, and especially
having
for a small
somebody who
attraction
knows,
like us. You know,
right.
we're a small attraction. We're a niche market, basically, kind of. And so how do you even get Google to find you?
And I mean, speaking of a reach, like Google gets you at least all over the country for what we do, but you've had people visit from literally all over the world. What's the farthest that somebody's visited from?
I guess Australia. We've had a lot
Wow.
of Australians visit us. And you know, COVID has really put us out there internationally because I've done a lot of virtual train shows. We can't have train shows right now, so they're all
Right.
virtual. And there's the National Model Railroad Association. They started doing these what they call NMRA, and they're virtual train shows. And so people who've never heard of us are finding us now. And I'm involved in a whole lot
Wow.
of different Facebook and YouTube groups. And so COVID hasn't been 100% awful. There are
Right.
definitely some blessings out of it.
With all these opportunities that you're part of, do you ever say no to an open door?
I never say no. If I can possibly make it happen, I always do it.
Wow. So really then being open to opportunities is also, I guess, one of the most important things, because as I've researched and worked with you, it seems like any opportunity you have to be out there somewhere, you do it.
I absolutely do it because they're all important. If I'm speaking to two people, it's just as important if I'm speaking to 2,000 people because those two people matter. And so every opportunity that I get to share what I do in this place that I love so much, I always take it.
Wow. There's a lot of business people, especially like executive directors, that I hear when people are wanting to network and ask them to be part of things, and even to be on the show, I hear of a lot of, I don't have time. I don't have time. And so that doesn't sound like it's in your vocabulary.
It isn't. I don't want to. I've had that happen to me. I've had that happen to me, especially on the tourism side. I tried to take a group somewhere and their director's like, yeah, I don't have time for you. I never want to be that person. I never
Right.
want to be that person. And so it's important to me that I take the time for each and every person that asks me about this place or whatever. I'm speaking at a bunch of model railroad clubs this month all around the country. And for some reason, they're interested in me. And so I'm excited to talk about this museum and what we do. So I'm excited. And I always meet new people. I love people. So maybe it's my personality helps a little bit because I love to meet new people. So
That's
I don't know.
that's So then what would you say are the top 3 things that have helped you elevate your brand to where it is?
Definitely taking the opportunities, being thankful when people help me out, helping people when I can. That relationship building thing is huge. Anytime somebody needs something, and if I can help, I will. And those things always come back to you, if that makes
Right.
sense. I give my time to something, and they're like, oh, she cared, you know? And I think I have an amazing place here. It's super easy to market this place because I love it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So I have a little leg up there. I'm not trying to sell something that's hard to sell.
Right.
And it's about joy, so that's easy. Did I
Yeah,
answer all the questions?
you did. Well, no, I still have a few more questions. I think that in my mind, we're going down this kind of very specific route with how you've built yourself, but it sounds like really at the core, it's just being open and friendly and building relationships is kind of what it comes down to, which
I've had to
is,
be outgoing. I have to say this. I had to be outgoing. So many times I am cold calling and I am saying, you don't know me, but this is why I think you should know me. So I hope that you're
wow.
agreeable to that. So
So
I
you're
have
like the
cold called
ultimate salesman of your own brand.
because I'm like, it's worth asking. All they can do is say no. And so I guess I'm kind of persistent. Is that the word?
Yeah,
I'm
that would be.
fearless. I'm fearless.
They have a
Because I
word,
believe,
it's called like, the word is called grit that I hear a lot. Like, you just
yeah.
keep banging on the doors, keep knocking, keep calling, keep knocking.
And they close
And
sometimes. There are some people that are like, yeah, I have time for you. It happens often.
wow.
So,
Oh my gosh. And so then, it seems like you don't get discouraged by those no's though. Those
no,
no's.
because then I just shift direction and like, okay, well, I have this goal in mind, so I'll just go this other way then. It's
So
fine.
what would you say to maybe salespeople or marketers who get discouraged by the no's? I know that a lot of people, when they hear no over and over, especially now, people are trying to look for jobs. No's are hard. How do you mentally just get on to the next thing? What's some advice you have for people?
Well, for one thing, I'm always on the positive side of things. I've always been that glass half full person, and it really annoys a lot of people. So when I get to a no, I'm truly just like, whatever, and I go to the next thing.
Oh
But
my.
if
Wow.
something's bothering me though, I will have to say every now and then I'm really disappointed, and so then I have to redirect and say, what is the end goal I want, and what's another route I can take to get there, and
Right.
then I just working on that.
Wow. That's a great mindset to have. I think that as far as takeaways for this is actually a theme we've been seeing pretty regularly, Michelle, is this kind of relationship building. And even though we have access to be able to reach massive amounts of people, many successful brands are going for the micro interactions. They might be running these huge ads, but they're going for those interactions with individual people on a regular basis. So you fit like perfectly within that kind of theme.
Well, for one
Which
thing, I don't have the
surprises.
budget to do the big ads, so I have to do the micro. I have to
Right.
be in this market because I do not have the dollars for big ads. But I'm not sure a big ad would do all that much for us because we're so mom and pop culture kind of place. Like we're that place
Wow.
that you tell your friends about, but you don't see the billboard anywhere. So it's worked so far. I really would love to have those marketing dollars to throw those billboards up everywhere.
Right, right, right.
Can
And
happen.
a reminder to everyone watching, if you have any questions, you can ask your questions. I can see them on my iPad, so I'll ask Michelle if we have some time. I guess, so then, with that kind of mom and pop feel, you have pretty massive numbers as far as your size versus how many visitors you get regularly, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we do. And our youth programs have been off the charts this year. We went from like 10 kids to 785 kids because we went virtual. And things have really grown that way. As far as visitors coming to our place, we're not open all that much because we can't staff it. Greeley is
Right,
not really a hot spot of tourism for the
right.
state of Colorado.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's hard to
As
get
much
people to
as
move east instead of west.
I'm trying to put Greeley on the map as a tourist destination because I think it's worth visiting. But right now it's
Yep.
not commonly known, so I have to work on that. And partnerships is huge. We didn't talk about that, but industry partners have been a lot to us in the tourism side.
Okay.
Without Visit Greeley and their budget to market us, I'm not sure we would have the visitors we have. And the state of Colorado, the money that they put into group tourism to help promote smaller industries, it's in small attractions. I don't think we could do it without them. It's
So,
partnerships because we're only a 1 to 2 hour experience. What else are you going to do with the rest of your day? I have to sell the whole day.
right, right. How do you make those kinds of connections with your partners, and then how do you have that follow up so that when people do turn and go to Greeley on their way to wherever, that they have more to do during the day? I'm guessing you have other partners within the city that you say, hey, go eat here, go
Yeah,
do this, go do that. Okay. How do you
I
how do you
do.
find those people?
I call them up.
You pick up the phone.
I pick up the phone and call people. I'm old school. I still want to talk to you and not email you, but I can do email. I can be modern, but I like to talk to people. There are some organizations that exist, like Visit Greeley. That's where we put together our restaurants, our attractions, our hoteliers, and we all know each other. So I know the managers of all the hotels in Greeley. I know a lot of the chefs and the restaurant owners and the business owners. So when I have a group come in, I can plan their whole day for them, and I can help
Wow.
them stay in one of our hotels. And so it's a lot of partnerships. And we partner with like the Pooter Learning Center or some of the other
Oh, they're one of my
attractions
other
in our
clients.
area.
Yep.
Yeah, and so, you know, it's just about promoting each other, and we try to do a lot of collaborative stuff whenever we can. Really, history museums in Centennial Village, we do a lot with their history days, and so it's just partnering.
Wow. And that kind of partnering, is it, I mean, does it take a lot of work from you, or does it just come together as a collaboration that just turns into a fun time?
The first year you ever do something, it takes a lot of work. It always
Okay.
does. It takes a lot of work to set something up. So you gotta have that tenacity to follow through and make sure it happens. After that, it gets really easy because you've done it. It's like creating a new event. Like
Yeah.
Monster Day. I'm on the Monster Day committee for Greeley. You know, we created something from nothing, and now people love it, and it's such a fun thing. It was a lot of work, but it was absolutely worth it.
That's gotten national recognition, actually, the Monster Day has. So,
And
yeah,
it's
kudos to
authentic to
that.
who you are. That's another thing I want to say as far as a marketing tip that you asked me about earlier. Here's the more of the answer is you need to be authentic to who you are. Whatever you're selling, you better believe in it. You better be authentic to
Yeah.
whatever it is that you're the face of and you're promoting.
Yeah, I mean, we're constantly trying to push authenticity above all. And so, I mean, yeah, it sounds like you've really kind of figured out that just by being a real person, you can get really far.
It's super and everybody's like, Michelle, how do you do it? I'm like, I don't know. I just be me, ask questions, and try to get stuff done.
Wow.
I'll get a crazy idea in my head and think we should do it. So I'll put in the time and the effort to make it happen, and there you go.
And what do you think the success rate is like of those kind of ideas?
They're usually pretty good. I have some big projects I'm working on that, you just kind of say, okay, well, maybe now's not the right time, and you just put it back in the pile, and then you pull it out again later.
Right.
As far as modeling world goes, I've had to learn to model. I'm learning to do things that these guys are so talented at, and so that's been an experience that's taught me a lot and helped me market it, because now I know what it takes to build a model train layout. So it had to be authentic, and I had to learn that one.
I don't think a lot of people can say, "Hey, I know how to build a model train layout." That's a that's a pretty special thing. All right, so
But if that's what I'm selling, I need to know it.
right, exactly. We have just a few seconds or minutes left. What are the top 3 things you would tell anybody? I'm going to go actually the school route. Anybody coming out of college. What are the top 3 things that you think that they should work on for personal branding and getting to where they want to be?
Don't give up on what makes you alive. Figure out what your passion is. What is it you really want to do? And every time you fail, learn the lesson from it. Learn from it. Make it be a positive thing because you learn from that, and use that to get towards where you want to be. I fail all the time, and I learn a lesson. And then I go,
Right.
oh yeah, I shouldn't do it that way. I should do it this way.
Wow.
So,
Exactly.
did I say 3 things? I don't know.
Yeah, you said,
Be
you know,
yourself.
you said 2, but I think the first one was profound enough to be 100, which was don't give up on the thing that makes you alive. That was pretty
Yeah.
powerful, that statement. And then my last question is, I'm kind of blown away, like almost tears in my eye. I was like, wow, that's really, that was profound. So when somebody visits the museum, more on a museum standpoint, this will be the last question. When somebody visits the museum, what do you want them to walk out that door with after they visited the museum?
Joy. I have a mission statement. It's to use model railroading experience to educate, inspire, and bring joy to all ages. So if you walk out of here with joy, inspiration, or you learn something, then we were successful.
Well, you've educated, inspired, and given joy to us this marketing tip tea time. It's been, honestly, Michelle, it's been such a great pleasure because this was one of the most, I think, personal, authentic, raw interviews we've had so far. And it really is simple for everybody watching. Be authentic, be a human, build relationships, reach out to people. It doesn't have to be fancy.
It's not fancy. It's old school.
Wow. That's
Just be
awesome.
you.
Well, Michelle, thank you so much for being on Marketing Tip Tea Time at 222. I hope you enjoyed your tea. I was
I love my
pleasantly,
tea. It's
I
good.
know, thank you, Mom. I was pleasantly surprised by it. So, hey, we're gonna have you back on maybe eventually, and I
Okay.
want to pick your brain a little bit more along this building relationships route, and if there's anything specifically that you do. But for all the audience out there, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate all of your support. I'm happy to announce that Josh and I are back in Colorado now. Josh is doing better after his treatment in Houston. He's on the up and up. He's getting better every day. And so we're really thankful for all of our fans and friends and family who have really given us support through this kind of tough time, and also for watching our Tip Tea Times and for helping us and being part of our newsletters and all of those types of things. So we want to thank you all. We love you all. And until next time, which is next Friday at 2:22, Nostravi. Cheers, Michelle.
Cheers. It's good tea.
Thank you. Yep.